reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's up, everybody? A very happy Tuesday. Welcome, Pushing the Limits. Everybody on the Really American Network. Of course, the FMAM Dial KSHP, my personal YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitch, we're everywhere. And we appreciate you being part of the program. So Donald Trump just had this wacky cabinet meeting that we're going to be getting to. We're certainly going to be talking about that. The fallout with this Lisa Cook firing, which is pretty much unprecedented. There's so much to get to today. There's so much to talk about. Former presidential candidate Joe Walsh, now a Democrat, will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. My friend Joe does the show all the time, and boy, I love talking to him. But I figured what better person to break down this Trump cabinet meeting of absurdity with everything else that's going on in the world. Always a pleasure to have Midas Touch's very own Ron Filipkowski joining us right now on the program. Ron, good to see you, my friend, as always. How are you?
Good. What a crazy day.
Yes.
Probably the most bizarre day for me covering the second Trump administration yet.
Let's
Definitely
start
the most bizarre since the Zelensky blow up in March. But for domestic stuff, absolutely insane.
Okay, so I'll just ask you, tell everybody why you say that. Give us the rundown.
Because yesterday Trump makes several announcements, executive orders, plans, Lutnick and DOJ, multiple agencies make all these announcements on a variety of different things. And MAGA hated every one of them. I mean, so I cover, the MAGA movement. I'm watching their reaction and they are just freaking the hell out. I mean, one after another, flag burning, Chinese students taking over Intel. The Proud Boys are pissed off. Chuck Grassley's pissed off about fertilizer tariffs. Literally everyone was pissed all day. So I'm covering all that for my column where I will have all of those MAGA quotes in my column today about each thing bitching about Trump. And then I watched this cabinet meeting, and it's like, these aren't cabinet meetings. He just goes around the room and like everyone in his cabinet praises him about like how godlike he is. So it's just this bizarre scenario where on social media all day long, MAGA is just bitching about everything he's doing and how unhappy they are. And then you go to his cabinet and they're like, everything is amazing. You're the greatest ever. And it's like, he has surrounded himself with all of these yes men, with his Rasputin Howard Lutnick whispering in his ear evil things. And, there's this complete disconnect between him and his MAGA base right now, where he is not plugged into them at all.
Ron, you had tweeted out, which I thought was very funny, in this cabinet meeting, they claimed that he saved Christianity, Christmas, and college football. I couldn't stop laughing at that, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also going to have what I was talking to the guys about an hour ago was because we were all saying that this is a crazy cabinet meeting. This is batshit. Like I can't believe what the things that they're saying to him. The whole thing is just what it is. They go around the room and it's like it's like Stalin or North Korea, where they're all trying to like outdo each other on how much they can praise him and what they can praise him for. So they're like, you should get the Nobel Peace Prize. You saved Christmas. You saved Christianity. And then like the labor secretary is like, you saved college football. I'm like, what, where's that? I missed that one. I think I cover this stuff pretty closely, but it's just like when you put an RFK saying like, he shot a 59 at Bedminster. It's like, okay, RFK is like the ninth guy up. So he's like, what can I come up with? Holy shit. Everybody else has come up with all this crazy. He said, you're exempt from the fitness challenge that all the cabinet officials are doing with the push-ups and the pull-ups because you shot a 59 at Bedminster. I'm like, what? Well, no, he didn't. I know the outing he's talking about. He's talking about when he did like a best ball thing with Bryson DeChambeau, and like they used all Bryson shots. You know, Trump couldn't make a putt. You know, so it was just really crazy. So what I did in my column is today, that's going to be out tonight, is I put all the quotes from all the MAGA people criticizing him all day long in a row, and then followed that by all the quotes from his cabinet officials praising him like a god, like right after that. It's just great.
Yeah, because all these, I saw one thing that you put up, like Charlie Kirk talking about Chinese students coming to this country. Obviously, all these MAGA idiots are against it. They're against any of these foreigners coming in here in large groups. And yet Donald Trump makes that announcement, his administration make that announcement, and people like Charlie Kirk are silent.
Okay, so this is definitely not Trump's idea because Trump knows nothing about this. This is another Lutnick plan. And how you know that is because Trump, makes the announcement and he doesn't know many details about it. He just says, we're going to be admitting 600,000 Chinese students. Right now, I think we admit like 290. Mm-hmm. So he's talking about doubling the number of Chinese students when like 3-4 months ago, they were talking about deporting all the Chinese students and revoking all their visas. Now they're talking about doubling the number of Chinese students. So then Lutnick goes on Laura Ingram's show on Fox last night to defend this because MAGA is freaking the hell out. So he goes on there to defend it, and Laura Ingram's pissed. She hates the idea too. And he explains it and makes it worse. When he gets into the details of this plan, it's even worse than you can imagine. Because here's what the argument is. The argument is this, that Chinese students basically are helping to finance the entire university system in America because they don't have any financial aid, loans, nothing. They pay cash for their tuition, and they pay more than Americans, a big number for their tuition. And so the argument is that basically like Chinese tuition helps to subsidize American students because the universities are making all this money off Chinese students. So they want to expand that. And what he's saying is, if we got rid of the Chinese students who are here now, who are all at these elite universities, what would happen is Americans at tier 2 universities would then move into those spots and get those spots.
Right.
And then the lower tier colleges would go out of business because they wouldn't have enough American students. That's the plan that they're rolling out.
And some of these, I guess you could say, far right wingers on social media, and some are not very happy with it. I mean, you know a few of them, and I think Laura Loomer being one of them. They can't be happy about this.
I'll give you the list.
Yeah.
My quotes I got right here. I got a whole list of people. Laura Ingraham. You got a podcaster, Chase, who's got a big podcast. Clint Russell's got a big podcast. Harrison Smith from InfoWars, Laura Loomer, Ann Coulter, Nick Fuentes, Steve Deese, who's got a big evangelical Christian podcast in Iowa. John Conrad, another one. Emerald Robinson, who's the main host for Mike Lindell TV. I mean, those are just a few of the people who are ripping this policy. I mean, it's crazy. And then even the flag burning one, they're like, what are we doing here? We're making it a crime to burn a flag? So it's great. It's a crazy day.
Absolutely nutty and crazy, to say the least. Could you explain to me the dictator stuff, which I find very, very interesting and strange? Many people are saying I'm a dictator. I'm not a dictator. Where did that come up? Why did he even say that? And what do you make of it?
He's rolling out this sort of a soft takeover. I mean, it's if you look at it, we are marching towards an autocratic form of government under Trump. I mean, incrementally every single day, whether it's taking over private industries as they're now doing. Lutnick was on CNBC this morning talking about the government taking over Lockheed Martin and defense contractors, along with Intel that they now have a stake in, which produces all of the chips, sophisticated microchips in the United States, is Intel. They have an ownership stake in that. So it's crazy. It's crazy what's happening, how they're just incrementally the government, and by executive order. It's not even Congress. Congress hasn't even been in session for a month. It's Trump through executive orders taking over one aspect of American society after another and doing it with threats. We're sending the National Guard into military. We're threatening media companies. Yesterday, he threatened to pull the broadcast licenses of CBS and NBC, threatening universities to seize their endowments. It's just across the board threat, fire. The first time ever a president has fired a Federal Reserve governor. That has never happened in 100 years. It happened yesterday. It's just in one area. And then he's actually throwing out the language like, hey, it obviously it takes a dictator to clean up crime in DC. People are calling me a dictator for doing it, but it worked. So maybe what we need is a dictator. That's what he said today.
Yeah, he did say that today. You're right. I wanted to get your take. And by the way, if you're just joining us, Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch. Ron, what did you make of this back and forth with Wes Moore? What did you make of that and this rift that they're having with one another, and Donald Trump, threatening, sending more money for the bridge reconstruction? What do you make of that?
Yeah, Moore, who's clearly a serious, probably the front runner to be the running mate for whoever wins the Democratic nomination. I would say Moore is probably at the top of the list of whoever that is, whether it's Newsom, Whitmer, whoever. They're going to look at Wes Moore. Because this guy is charismatic. He's a great speaker. He's a military vet, Bronze Star winner, all that kind of stuff. Popular governor, good looking guy. So Trump obviously pays special attention to him and people like Gavin Newsom. Anybody who is a potential leader of the party, Trump goes after personally. Yeah. So in this particular case, while Trump is threatening to send National Guard troops into cities, Baltimore was on his list. Wes Moore said, look, I would be happy to take Trump out. He could walk around Baltimore with me and he will see that it is not a war zone. We still have problems, but we've made a lot of progress. Crime is down. We've cleaned a lot of things up. We're working hard here, and I would like to show it to him. And, that's what set Trump off, where he started rant and rave and yelling, screaming. They started trading shots back and forth about whether he lied about getting a Bronze Star while Trump is a draft dodger. And right. So, of course, Moore came back at him. The thing that was most encouraging is the way Moore came back at him, because I think this is where Newsom has changed the game. Because what I've noticed is that a lot of people like Moore and others are more emboldened to go right back after Trump with the insult. The old Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high. Right. That's gone. I think now finally, after 8 years, Democrats have finally figured out that you have to fight fire with fire.
Gavin Newsom certainly is doing that. Ron, I've been saying that for years. Okay, so I want to ask you this question. It's a sensitive one, but I think it's an important one. When you look at this firing of Cook, do you believe race? I know it's hard. It's hard to say, but I think race was a factor. Do you think race was a factor? This is unprecedented in firing anybody at this position. Do you think the color of her skin is a main reason why Donald Trump has decided to fire the Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to disagree there because I've watched how this plays out. So if you really want to understand the plan here for them, and this is a very orchestrated plan, you have to follow Bill Pulte's social media account, Pulte. Mm-hmm. He is the guy that's in charge of the federal housing agency that oversees Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all that kind of stuff, right? So normally that is an agency that you never hear about. You couldn't name any of the previous directors of that agency. You couldn't name one. I couldn't name one. As closely as I follow politics, this is a job that nobody pays any attention to. this guy is an ideologue. He's an inherited wealth guy. You know, he inherited a building company from his father, tons of money, younger guy. And, you know, he went in there and he got this appointment, and, you know, rather than like use it to like administer mortgages and make sure that the mortgage market and the housing market is healthy, he decided to weaponize it. And he said, so he decided that what he was going to do is pour over the mortgage applications that were submitted by Democrats, elected officials in government agencies, career government officials, and scrutinize, give them special scrutiny to see if he could find any discrepancies. And they were going to use that as their excuse to either prosecute those people criminally for mortgage fraud or fire them from government agencies. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I say I don't think race is involved is because the first name on their list was Adam Schiff.
Right.
He's the first guy they went after, and they referred a criminal investigation to DOJ on Schiff. So this is, and Pulte also mentioned this Fed governor. So if you told me that, you know, other Fed governors maybe have some of the same discrepancies on their mortgage applications, then maybe I could buy into that. But the other thing is, look, he went after Powell first.
Right. That's
you
true.
know, so no, I don't think it's about race. And honestly, I believe that it is a mistake for Hakeem Jeffries and others to focus on that and make that the focus, when the reality is the real reason is something even more sinister than just their obvious racism. The real reason is this is part of a diabolical plan to oust appointees and government servants and prosecute Democrats.
Sure. But let me ask you this, Ron. Do you think it's a coincidence that they've deployed the National Guard into D.C., black mayor, Chicago, black mayor? You don't think it has anything to do with race, just the fact that they're Democrat-run cities? Do you think that's...
Oh, no. I think that has to do with race.
You do?
I'll say different on that. I have a different opinion on that. No, I think the mortgage stuff is not about race. The mortgage stuff is about targeting Democrats. But the National Guard stuff, absolutely. I mean, how they've sold this to their people is, let's face it, most of the people in the MAGA movement and the Republican Party live in rural areas, in suburban areas. They do not live in cities. They do not live in urban areas, the vast majority of them. And so they're sitting there in Nebraska and on their farm, and they're seeing Fox News every day. And if that's who you are, if you're like a white person in Iowa or Wyoming, and you don't go to big cities very often, and you watch Fox News all day, you would think that our cities are absolute war zones, because all they do is cherry pick the bad stuff. You know, they'll show the homeless, they'll show somebody getting arrested, they'll show a video of crime. And the way that Trump and his cabinet officials describe American cities is that they're war zones. You can't walk down the street. This is what they say all the time. So they're laying the justification for a military occupation of these cities. And you hear now his supporters all say it's totally justified because our cities are a war zone, despite the fact that they may have never been in an American city in the last 5 years. But this is what they have been conditioned to believe in order to get them to go along with military occupation. However, they're not going to send National Guard into any Florida cities. I heard Atlanta. I saw the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said, "Are we next?" I instantly said, no, they're not next, because Brian Kemp would not allow that. Right. They're not going to do this with any Republican cities or Republican states. They're going to target blue cities and blue states.
Yeah, that's what makes it completely political. And yeah, as I agree with you, race is certainly a factor here. I have to ask you about Cracker Barrel and this logo, because, God, you put out so many funny tweets about this. I mean, people like James Woods saying, "I'm never going to go there again." You're like, oh, no, horrible news, right? But Donald Trump now has just recently made an announcement that he's calling on Cracker Barrel to change their logo back to what it was, as if this is an issue and anybody cares about it. What do you make of MAGA? You know, we heard the Sydney Sweeney nonsense, and now the Cracker Barrel logo. It's just so bizarre. What do you make of this?
Let me explain to you what's going on here, because like nobody really gets this. So there's a comical aspect to it and there's a sinister aspect to it. The comical aspect to it is they're like that tier below the influencer level of MAGA people like Woods, who, you know, are out there like cartoon characters saying and doing all these ridiculous things about Cracker Barrel. So that's the comical thing, and we all get caught up in that. But the reality is, the sinister side of this is a very orchestrated money-making extortion operation. And there's a lot of connections between the two. And I'm trying to like tie up some of the loose ends, but it's difficult because this stuff is very opaque. Let me explain to you how this works. Okay. So Stephen Miller, as fast as I can, Stephen Miller's organization that he belonged to, that he founded, was called America First Legal. And they sue American companies for DEI, for supposedly discriminating against white people, whether it's employees, customers, supervisors, whatever. So they file all these lawsuits against companies, and it's all about an extortion racket. Then what you have is when one of these companies that they're going after, and they sued Cracker Barrel months ago for DEI, but it was, you know, they wouldn't get any traction, wasn't going anywhere. Then when a company like Cracker Barrel that they're suing does something that could be considered woke, like taking the old cracker guy off the logo, you know, this is discriminating against white crackers, you know, so, you know, that gives them the hook that they need. Then it goes to a guy called Robbie Starbuck, who's on social media. If you follow him, he's the point man for extorting the companies. He will then, and he even posted today, he organizes along with other people the social media influencer brigade. To then, they did it with Bud Light. They do it with so many other companies, and they then will go after the company. Organize the boycotts, trash it, ramp up all the political pressure. Donald Jr., Trump Jr. gets in on it. Jack Posobiec, all the usual suspects. They all pile on. Stock price goes down. Then you have inside the government, typically Stephen Miller or somebody at DOJ starts threatening legal action against the company. This time you even had Donald Trump, trashing the company. And then you have Robbie Starbuck, who right after Donald Trump issues his post, reaches out to the CEO of Cracker Barrel on social media and says, "You need to call me." And what he's saying is, you need to call me and negotiate a settlement, and I'll make all this go away for you. All the influencer stuff, I'll call it off. They've done this like half a dozen times, and they make a lot of money doing it. They make a lot of money. So this is literally a right-wing MAGA extortion racket using people inside and outside the government to extort companies to get money from them. That's what it is. You got to follow. It's very opaque. It's very difficult to follow. I follow it, but even I have a hard time showing the coordination. I literally would have to spend like days on it, and I don't have time.
I think you explained it better than anybody. So I certainly appreciate that. I guess my last question for you, Ron, is, we saw the governor of Illinois saying, we don't want you guys here, talking about Donald Trump, his, deployment of the National Guard. Obviously, it's very easy legally for Donald Trump to do that in D.C., but it's not going to be very easy for him to do this, as you know, in other cities around the country. What do you think is going to happen here with this clash? What will be the end result? And ultimately, do you think Donald Trump will be able to deploy the National Guard to a city like Chicago?
Yeah, it seems like Chicago is the next one, and he's definitely determined to go there. And you're right. There's a big difference between Chicago and DC, because DC is a federal city. DC is not a state. And this is everything that's happening right now provides another argument for DC statehood, because they have no power to stop this. The federal government can take over DC. They can oust the mayor if they want to. A lot of DC is set up through Congress, and the president has a lot of authority inside the city. So that's a special case. But if he's trying to send the Mississippi National Guard to Chicago, you're going to have what could be the start of a civil war, really, and I don't use those words ever lightly. In fact, I make fun of people for using those kind of hyperbolic words, but I don't know any other way to describe it. I mean, because you got the governor of Illinois saying, You're not coming here. We're not allowing you to come here. And he's not just activating National Guards from like that state. He's talking about sending National Guards from red states, red southern states into northern cities. That would be crazy. And at some point, you're going to have some Republican members of Congress step up and speak out against this stuff. At some point, they're going to have to find their courage. But right now, they're all hiding.
Am I wrong, Ron? But wasn't it Kristi Noem that said a few years back, talking about Democrats that were possibly calling in the National Guard, and weren't they calling that out? Some of these people on the far right, some that are in Donald Trump's administration, but now all of a sudden they have no problem with it.
Yeah, and we saw this. That's true, and we saw this in 2020 with the BLM stuff protests, where Trump repeatedly wanted to use the National Guard and send troops into cities around the country. And Mark Milley and Mark Esper, his defense secretary, his chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and others told him, no, you can't do that. That you can't. That's not who the United States is. There has to be a national emergency. This is not it. This violates the law, violates the Constitution. You had a lot of people in the first Trump administration in the summer of 2020 who pushed back and told him you can't do this. Well, who does he have now? Pete Hegseth. Stephen Miller. There's nobody there to tell Donald Trump he can't do something. As we just saw, you saw that cabinet meeting today.
Yeah.
Can you imagine any of those people in that room telling Donald Trump, no, you can't send a National Guard somewhere?
Yeah.
There's nobody that's going to tell him no. And that's the biggest difference between this second administration and the first one. And when all these people, these moderate Republicans, were telling me, all these terrible things you're warning about, he didn't do it the first term. I'm like, he tried to do it the first term, and his cabinet and Republicans in Congress pushed back, and they wouldn't allow him to do it. Those people who pushed back are all gone.
I thought Marco Rubio might be the only guy, but he's proven to have absolutely no backbone either.
He wants to be vice president.
Of course. He's looking after his own interests.
Advance.
Exactly. Just like every other MAGA Republican in office right now, they worry about themselves rather than their constituents and the country. Ron, before I let you go, what do you got working on today for your awesome Substack?
This one's going to be epic, man. It's going to be one for the ages, where I'm going to go through and have all the MAGA complaints of the last 24 hours about Trump. And then I'm going to go through all his cabinet officials praising him, and just putting those two things like next to each other is going to be really startling. And I was just looking at like all the people I've quoted in this Substack, and I was just thinking, not to toot my own horn, but just thinking about other people that write about politics. There is literally no one who can even come close to. I've got like Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio trashing Trump all the way from like AOC. There's no one that can even come close to following the wide spectrum of different people and sources across right wing and left wing than me. And it's all the best of it is like plugged into one place. So it can be a real horror show and a train wreck at times, but I think this one's going to be pretty entertaining tonight.
I cannot wait to read it, Ron. You have one of the best Substacks around. Always appreciate it when you take the time to join us. A lot to talk about. Can't wait to read that. Ron, if I don't speak to you, have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch up with you next week, my friend. Always appreciate the time, my friend. Good stuff.
Okay.
Thank you.
You got it. See you.
See you later. All right, Ron Filipkowski, everybody from Midas Touch. Gosh, I love that guy. He is so good. Such a great Substack. I go from one phenomenal guest to another one. This guy's been doing my show for years. He's a former Republican. He ran for president of the United States, of course. And he is also a former congressman outside of Chicago. So definitely, I want to ask him some questions about Chicago. Of course, I'm talking about my friend Joe Walsh joining us right now on the show. Joe, how's it going, my friend?
Brian, always good to be with you. I'm a big Ron fan as well.
Yeah, Ron is a great guy, and I love what the guys at Midas Touch are doing. I want to start by talking to you about Chicago. You're a former congressman out there. Almost everything that's going on in Chicago. So What do you make of the fact that Donald Trump wants to deploy the National Guard out there, and then you have the governor that, of course, is saying you're not welcome here? I mean, are we headed towards a civil war here? Like, what is going on, or what is going on here, and why do you think Donald Trump wants to deploy the National Guard to Chicago?
So I was on the BBC about an hour ago, and I said, you know what? We have a fascist in the White House. This great 249-year-old experiment in democracy has a fascist in the White House. And they went, whoa, you serious? And then I just said, watch what he's doing. And a big part of what he's doing is using the military against Americans on our streets, turning the military into his military. This is fascism. This is what dictators do. He did it in LA. He's doing it in DC. Chicago's next. Bry, you know, it'll be blue cities in blue states.
You know that's exactly what's going on. You know, I asked Ron Filipkowski this question. I'm going to ask you the same one. Do you believe that it's not a coincidence that he's going after these cities with black mayors? Because I don't think it's a coincidence. What do you say? DC, he's talking about Baltimore. What do you make of that?
Yeah, Brian, look, I think there's something to that. It's like that question that I've been asked for years. Is Trump a racist? He's a racist. He's a bigot. He's a sexist. He's a transphobe. He's a xenophobe. He's just an ugly, hateful, mean, cruel person who generally, you know, is just mean to people. He's picking what historically my side, you know, right-wing warriors like me would always go after when we talked about crime. Black faces in big Democratic-run cities. And Bry, from his perspective, if you have a classic Democratic-run city that has a black mayor, man, that's gold, Jerry. That's gold.
Yeah, you're right about that. I tend to agree with you on that. Ron also agrees, and he thinks that race has played a factor. But he did tell me he does not think that race played a factor with this Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook being fired. What are your thoughts on that, Joe?
No, I agree with Ron. And this is where my new party has to freaking wake up and get their messaging right. I saw Hakeem Jeffries and Jasmine Crockett, who I respect, a lot of Democrats responding to Trump trying to fire that Federal Reserve Board member, who happens to be the first black woman member of the board. This isn't about identity. Identity matters. It's not about race. Race matters. This is about fascism. This is about a president using his office to try to take over the American economy. That is way more important right now than the fact that Lisa Cook, that's her name, right? Lisa Cook, yep, is black. Lisa Cook is a hero. She is the face of resistance. That's what's important here, not her race or her gender.
I tend to agree with you on that one, Joe, as well. What do you make of the executive order? He's trying to burning of the American flag, which obviously is something I would never do. I know, Joe, it's something you would never do. You love this country just as much as I do. But the Supreme Court ruled this is like, you know, freedom, the freedom to be able to do something like that. You have the right to do it. Number one, does Donald Trump legally, will he be able to do this? And number two, do you think that burning the American flag should be considered a felony? What do you make of that?
Hell no. What makes this country so effing unique is that one word, freedom. So like you and I, Bry, on a Friday night, we're sitting outside your place, drinking some tequila, having a good old time. You get pissed off. You grab an American flag out of your apartment and you start to burn it. Man, I'll defend until death your right to do that. That's what makes this country so great. But again, my perspective, coming from the right, this is a big issue that I always used to play too much, and the right still plays. It's one of their favorite go-tos. It's utterly unconstitutional, but Brian, here's the deal. 90% of what Trump's done the first 8 months is unconstitutional. And yet, this is why that Fed board member is so important, because like I get pissed off at Trump. He's a fascist. But my God, we got to get equally pissed off at the fascist enablers. All these, right? All the law firms and the universities and everybody else who's bowed down to and accommodated him. Lisa Cook stood up and said, no, you can't fire me. I'm not going anywhere. We all need to do that.
You know, Joe, you have been one of the first years back calling Donald Trump a dictator. You preach it all the time. I agree with you. You say it on your podcast, in all your videos, and you're right. But I don't think enough prominent people are using those terms, fascist and dictator, which clearly he is. He's running an oligarchy here. We know that. He's siding with Vladimir Putin, still attacking Zelensky in Ukraine, siding with everything Benjamin Netanyahu says or does, and the Israeli government. And then you look at the way he's treating undocumented immigrants and even American citizens. This is a dictatorship, and you were one of the first to say it many years ago.
And that's probably, Brian, why I could never, ever get elected again. Look, it's not it. Most politicians are afraid to be this blunt. Most Democratic politicians, my new party, are afraid to just freaking say what they believe. This did not sneak up on us. Like, that's a heavy word. I was on with Ali Velshi over the weekend, and I said, we have a fascist in the White House. And then I just ran through what he's doing. You nailed one of them. Brian, all great fascists in history talk about their nation in decline. We got to make America great again. And what do? They blame minorities. So Trump is disappearing brown and black people off the streets, going after transgender Americans, denying student visas to Muslim students. These are classic fascist moves. And to not understand the moment, and my party establishment, Brian, doesn't understand the moment. Maybe it's going to be a new Democrat like me that's going to drag the effing party kicking and screaming to understand what we're up against. And you know what, Brian? One more thing. If I've had so many consultants tell me, but Joe, the price of eggs and the price of this or that, screw that. If you're running for office and you can't convince the average American that the damn preservation of democracy is more important than the price of eggs, then get out of my way. Get out of my way.
Well said. Joe, I have to ask you this. I know you're planning on running for president. I'm going to give you a what if. I think we all could probably assume right now, with respect, the favorite would probably be Gavin Newsom. There's a lot of things that can change between now and then. However, in the future, let's just say Gavin Newsom versus J.D. Vance. If a guy like a Gavin Newsom, or whoever the front runner is, asked you to run as their vice president, is that something that you would consider?
Always. Always. And by the way, Brian, that was an honest answer. Like, if you would have asked any other politician that question, they would have said, well, Brian, we got to put the country first, and I got to do what's best for my family. No, always, right? This is, you're younger than I am. You're like, what, 19, 20, 21?
Yeah, right.
Brian, you're not an old fart like me. I got maybe 20 good years left. I'm gonna go into my grave trying to defend this thing. That's why I became a Democrat 2 months ago, right? So yeah, whatever calls, that's what we have to do.
I say that, Joe, because you're going to get Republican votes to come on the other side. You obviously are pro-life, and you share some opinions on policy that are not left-leaning policies, of course, but yet you're obviously very anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, and you share a lot of views that many Democrats share and middle ground people share. So I don't know. I'm just saying that, man. I would vote for you if you were running for president, of course, but I think you'd be a pretty damn good VP pick. And I just figured I would throw that out there because I don't know if anybody's ever asked you that question.
Well, it's funny, Brian. Nobody's ever asked me that question. They always ask me, are you going to run again?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though. Every good vice president needs to be an effing pit bull. And I would love nothing better than to go after my old family, the MAGA family, because it's going to be a MAGA ticket on that other side, no matter what.
Yeah. And by the way, I love what Gavin Newsom has been doing. Last question, Joe. I love what Gavin Newsom has been doing with these tweets. I guess I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. It's almost, they're mocking Trump for how we can't normalize him. And they're using his own words. And I think it's hilarious. And the people on the right are losing it.
Brian, you make a great point. Newsom is mocking Trump. He's not copying him. There's a big difference.
Right.
I think it's great. You and I know, because we've been talking now for the last 7 months, ever since Trump won, Democratic voters are screaming for fighters. In his own way, Newsom's fighting. This word, though, Brian, authenticity. Whoever is gonna be at the front of the Democratic Party parade has got to be authentic. And Newsom has to prove he's authentic because he's got a history of being kind of all over the place. Mm-hmm. We want authentic people, not politicians.
There you go. Joe, if you ever become the vice president, just don't forget about me. Okay, that's all I ask.
Hey, if I ever become the vice president, Brian, you got your own room in the White House or wherever.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll meet in the White House once a month and have tequila and talk about what's going on.
I might take you up on that, Joe. So I'm going to have to give Gavin Newsom a call for you. Anyway, Joe, always appreciate. I love you, my friend. Thanks so much for coming on, as you always do. I appreciate your time and hope you have a great rest of your week. And we will talk to you soon, Joe. I love you, pal. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother.
There you go. Joe Walsh, everybody. Hey, you heard it from him. I have a room in the White House. Okay. By the way, this is not far-fetched. Joe Walsh is a big name. I think Joe Walsh could be considered by anybody on the left because he's going to bring in people in the middle and even people on the right. I think Joe Walsh would be a great vice president. Now, maybe some of you disagree with me on that. Listen, I love Joe. He's not going to be the nominee. Okay. If he runs, I think it's great to get his voice out there. And I like Joe a lot. He's not going to be the nominee. It's probably going to be Gavin Newsom. And there's a lot that could change between now and then. I'm sorry. I just think Joe Walsh would do a good job as VP. I don't always agree with him on a lot of issues, but he's a good man. And he's certainly on the right side of history. Let me quickly go to the YouTube super chat. And then here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. And then on the other side of the break, we are going to take phone calls. I have a little bit of audio I'm going to play for you, but we will also be taking some phone calls on the other side of the break. Thank you, David, who says, not from Chicago. I'm from Crown Heights. Truth equals kosher. Thank you, David. My friend Darcy Merritt, friend of the show, a good friend of mine, says, hey, PTL, let's give Brian a good send-off for his much-deserved vacation. Thumbs up and any other meaningful support you can. Thanks for dealing with the insane so we can stay remotely sane, Brian. Thank you, Darcy. That's very sweet of you to say. Yes, I am taking a vacation Thursday, Friday. I will be back on Monday, and Paul Lance will be filling in for me on Thursday and Friday, and Leonard Cardinale will be co-hosting, even though Leonard will be in with me tomorrow. But the show's still here Thursday and Friday, and Paul's going to be in the king's chair, for lack of a better term. All right, so here's what we are going to do. We're going to take a quick 90-second break. When we come back, I'm going to play you a few clips from Donald Trump's little roundtable meeting today. It is absolutely crazy and off the rails. And then we will open up the phone lines, which is one of the most interactive shows you will find anywhere. The number is 702-221-7283. And again, that number is 702-221-7283. We're going to play some clips for you. We'll take your calls on the other side. And by the way, if you want to know what I'm asking you today, well, it's pretty simple, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, do you think race is a factor with the firing of Lisa Cook? That would be my first question for you. And let's talk a little bit about race. When we see Donald Trump wanting to deploy troops to Chicago, he's already done it in D.C. He wants to do it in Baltimore. Funny, 3 black mayors that are run in those cities, Democrat-run cities. Do you think that's a coincidence? I don't think so. I think Donald Trump is a blatant racist, and I think he's been one his entire life, and I can provide you plenty of reasons why. Your thoughts on that at 702-221-7283. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with your phone calls on the other side. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right
in getting there.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, today happens to be Tuesday, so that means at Jackson's Bar and Grill, if you show up with your TAM card and you earn 250 points, you're going to get $50 in free slot play. Just show up with your TAM card. Check it out. Jackson's Bar and Grill. I was over there yesterday. I had a phenomenal lunch. Check them out. Best food, great atmosphere. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. And please tell them that I sent you. Brian Slipok and the gang will take care of you. So if you're just joining us, you've missed a lot. We had two great guests on, Ron Filipkowski from Midas Touch, and we had former presidential candidate, he's going to be running for president again, Joe Walsh, joining us on the program. Two of really some of my favorite guests. We are also in the YouTube Super Chat, where Immortal just said, I just wanted to come on here to ask why Donald Trump doesn't just use the same makeup on his face to blend on his hands, and he has the ankles of an elephant. That's actually very funny, Immoral. You made me laugh. Thank you for your support and your donation. So you've missed a lot, but what we are going over today, of course, and I'm asking all of you, do you think race was a factor in the firing of Lisa Cook? And if you don't think that race was a factor, because Lisa Cook happens to be an African-American female, do you think race is a factor in the fact that Donald Trump has deployed our National Guard to D.C., black mayor? He wants to deploy the National Guard to Chicago, black mayor. He wants to deploy the National Guard to Baltimore, black mayor. Do you think that is just a coincidence? Because I don't think it is at all. Your thoughts on that as well. Number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. All right, let's go to the phone lines. We still got the YouTube Super Chat up, and of course the website, pushingthelimits.live. You know, before I do that, I do want to play a few clips for you because I almost forgot before we go to the phone calls. So I want to play you this clip, which to me perfectly illustrates the Trump presidency and Republicans that are in Congress. And I want you to listen to this very carefully, because here is Donald Trump actually telling the truth. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this. You're supposed to go through Congress when you're the president of the United States, when you try to do certain things. Here's Donald Trump describing perfectly what his administration is doing and just going right over Congress. Have a listen to this.
That's good.
And on the Department of War, how do you plan to do that? It requires an act of Congress to rename the Defense Department to the Department of War.
We're just going to do it. I'm sure Congress will go along if we need that. I don't think we even need that, but if we need that, I'm sure Congress will go along. You know, that was the name when we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything. And just to me seems like just a much more appropriate. The other is defense is too defensive, and we want to be defensive, but we want to be offensive too if we have to be. So it just sounded to me better, really like a better name.
Yeah, there you go. Well, forget about Congress. I'm sure they'll agree with us anyway, but let's just go right over Congress. Let's go right over the Supreme Court. And there is no rule of law. I have immunity. I can do whatever the hell I want. He's actually telling the truth there. That's what he's saying. That's the only truthful thing Donald Trump has probably said in years. That is a dictator. That is the definition of a dictator. And then there's the blatant lies. Now, as you know, Donald Trump has gotten into it with Wes Moore on social media time and time again. He's threatened that he's not going to help the restructuring of the bridge there. And he's been threatening Wes Moore, and Wes Moore has been going back at him, saying that you're a draft dodger, so on and so forth. Wes Moore is an extremely intelligent guy, and he will not back down. So here's Donald Trump, and Wes Moore actually laughed about this and retweeted it because it's so ridiculous. Here's Donald Trump making a false claim that Wes Moore said he's the greatest president of his lifetime. Listen to this.
And inside of this country, Baltimore is a horrible, horrible deathbed. It's a deathbed. I know Governor Moore said, oh, he wants to take a walk with me. He meant it in a derogatory tone. I said, no, I'm the president of the United States. Clean up your crime and I'll walk with you. But it's tremendous crime. But he was trying to be derogatory. He doesn't have what it takes. But he's trying to be derogatory, and I met him at the Army-Navy game. They said, "Oh, there's Governor Moore. He'd love to see you." He came over to me, he hugged me, shook my hand. You were there. He said, "Sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime." I said, "Well, it's really nice that you say that. I'd love you to say it publicly, but I don't think you can do that, so it's okay. But no, sir, you're doing a fantastic job. I want to just shake your hand. Thank you very much, Governor." That was it. And then every time I see him on television, he's knocking the hell out of me. So, but that's all right. It's called politics.
Yeah, many people are saying, I'm sure that Wes Moore shook your hand and said, "You're the greatest president of my lifetime." Yeah, I'm sure that happened. Yeah, I'm sure. Just like Melania Trump sleeps in the same bed as Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm sure that happens too. What a liar. Wes Moore retweeted that and said lots of laughs, and it's just a utter nonsense. See, Wes Moore cares about his communities there in Maryland. He cares about those people. And Donald Trump just cares about how many people coddle his ego. All right, I want to get right to the phone lines. There's a lot of people that are waiting very patiently on hold, so I don't want them to wait anymore. It's one of the most interactive shows you will find, and we appreciate you guys. 702-221-7283. Let's start off with Melvin. Melvin is first off on PTL. Hey, Melvin, where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, I'm calling from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Thanks for calling in, Melvin. What's on your mind today?
I just want to say, man, I freaking love you. When I tell you, dude, I listen to your show. I found you on YouTube. I listen to your show all the time, and you are so right about everything that you really like. You ask basic questions, and they can never answer one question. And I don't understand how many times you got to ask the question over and over again for just answer the goddamn question. I'm sorry. But it's just, you really hit the facts. This man is crazy. These people, I'm sorry, they're freaking demons in the world right now, man. It's like people have lost sight of humanity, empathy, the ones that follow him and all these cult leaders, and they're pretty much just like all battered wives, pretty much. They get beat up and get beat up and get beat up and lied to, and then bring flowers home, and it's like, "Oh, we forgive you. Everything's okay." And what kills me is they follow nonsense and don't even understand the concept of just being human. Like, you really have that much hatred in your heart to just go against all morale. You ask questions about locker rooms, the 37, the counts of felonies that he does have, going to GA's locker rooms all the time with these girls. And you asked the guy the other day, "Would you be okay with that?" And he said, "No, I wouldn't be okay with that," but he still voted for the man in the first place.
Right.
Stupid.
Well,
it's completely stupid.
It's despicable. It's despicable.
It is.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think it's just a coincidence that Donald Trump basically wants to deploy the National Guard into all these cities with black mayors? Do you think that's just a coincidence?
No, it's not no coincidence. That's on purpose.
Yeah.
That is on purpose. That is on purpose. He does everything he can to keep the minorities or chaos in this country keep going and going and going. It makes no sense how this man is even in office. How can you have all these felony counts, this insurrection that people, for the love of me, for the love of God, don't understand? The freaking stuff was on TV.
Yeah.
We all saw it. It's like saying the sky is blue today, but you're going to argue me that it's green.
Yeah.
Because you see it's blue, but you're going to argue me that it's green. That is so. I'm sorry.
Well, if somebody,
people,
I'm at the point now. And by the way, Melvin, I appreciate your call and I appreciate your kind words. I'm at the point now. If somebody comes up to you and says that the Earth is flat, do you even have a conversation with them? Do you say, "No, sir," or "Ma'am, the Earth is round. I can give you proof of that"? And if they still say, "No, I don't believe you, the Earth is flat," do you continue the conversation? No. That's the point that I am at with many of these MAGA supporters now. It's very difficult to have a very good faith type of conversation with them. Once in a while you can, but they are few and far between, and it's very difficult. Paul Lance, who's going to be filling in for me Thursday and Friday this week on the YouTube Super Chat, says Joe Walsh is full of integrity. I have a lot of respect for him. Well, Paul, I agree with you. I do too. Joe's been a friend of mine for years, and I do have a lot of respect for him as well, Paul. Thank you for the donation. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. For those of you that are on social media that want to chime in, if you're a Trump supporter, I'll be happy to debate you. Now's your opportunity on a show that has 200,000 listeners a day. Actually, a little bit more than that. now's your opportunity to do so. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. As Paul also adds, Trump painted the border wall black to match the color of his heart. That's actually pretty funny, Paul. And I would say also very true. All right, let's go to Steve. Steve is next up on PTL. Hey, Steve, what's going on?
Hi, Brian.
Hey.
We were talking about a guy who, when he was younger, was sued along with his dad for discriminating against people who wanted to rent his property. He took out a full-page ad in the New York paper demanding that 5 blacks would be executed. And now we're talking about this going in black cities and stuff.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, so listen, I agree with you. What does Donald Trump have to do to prove to some people out there that he's racist? Now, here's the problem. A lot of the people that support him, I don't think they care, because I think a lot of them are racist themselves. But I mean, time and time again, Donald Trump has shown that he is a bigot. What else does this man have to do? First of all, he's not going to be deploying the National Guard into any cities run by Republicans. We know that. And I do find it very convenient that he wants to send these National Guard troops into all these places that are not only run by Democrats, but black mayors. I don't think that's a coincidence. And you look at the way he's treated minorities his whole life. You mentioned some things, the thousands of discrimination lawsuits that they had to pay out because he did not want black people to live in his properties in New York. We can go on and on and on. The history of Donald Trump, not just the way he's treated women, but the way he's treated African Americans and minorities. And he's doing that with undocumented immigrants and brown people in this country, not giving them due process. It's sickening. It's disgusting. The man is a bigot.
And one other thing, Brian, is that we cannot forget that he's distracting from the Epstein files.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I agree with you, my friend. And we all know that this is a huge distraction. So I completely agree with you on that one as well. And I appreciate your call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Courtney. Courtney is next up on PTL. Hey, Courtney, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, it's Courtney in Brooklyn. How you doing?
Doing good, Courtney. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind today?
Okay, I disagree with you and Joe about it being race. It's both. I mean, he hates black women because 92% of us voted against him.
That's right.
And he particularly hates us educated Negroes. So I do think that did play into it. I mean, yes, it's his hate of the feds, but it also played in that here you have this black woman and the first one at the Fed.
Well, I don't disagree with you.
Of this is,
I think both can be true.
No, you guys were like, no, I don't think that we should be saying it's. I think Joe said it, that he didn't think we should be talking about race. Yeah, it's both. And then in terms of these cities, I mean, it's clear Memphis, Tennessee, and some of these red states have far higher crime rates than the places that he's trying to go. And it's just a way to start corralling black people in and picking up more black and brown people in terms of immigrants, because we do have a lot of them living here and they're easy pickings because, you can see them, like we're all on the streets and stuff all the time. We're walking about.
Right.
So I think that that's what that's all about. It's definitely everything he does is race.
I think
even him running was
yes,
racist.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think both can be true. I think race can be involved in the fact that he wants to be a dictator. But I agree with you. I think he wants to round up a bunch of minorities, whether they're homeless or not. And he knows that's not his demo. He knows the overwhelming majority, as you mentioned correctly, it was like 92 or 93% of black women did not vote for Donald Trump. Thank you to all of those. And 80% of black men did not vote for Donald Trump. He knows who his supporters are, and many of them are not minorities. That's just the reality of the situation, my dear. And I don't disagree with anything you said, and I really do appreciate your call. Go to Shelley in the YouTube super chat. Shelley says, with Trump, there are no coincidences, the dictator in chief. I agree with you, Shelley. I've been calling him a dictator for a while, not as long as Joe Walsh has been calling him a dictator, but I certainly agree with you on that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Why don't we go to Brett? Brett is next up on PTL. Hey, Brett, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Brian?
Hey.
I'm still frustrated because the media isn't calling this out, that they're not calling him out every day on this stuff. And, as far as crime, violent crime it is an issue in this country, but it's not even nearly the most important issue. If we were to go after white collar crime, we could probably clean up over $1 trillion in debt owed by white collar criminals in this country. But if the issue is real crime, then how come this isn't addressed? Because these are Donald Trump's friends?
Well, first of all, if the issue is crime, even if you disagree with Donald Trump deploying the National Guard, you would say, why don't you send the National Guard into the most dangerous cities? We know he is not doing that. So there is no explanation other than the fact that he wants to own the libs. He knows the base loves the fact that he's, putting these troops in there to Democrat-run cities, many of whom have black mayors. So, this isn't about rule of law, because anybody who wants to say, well, what's wrong with Donald Trump wanting to clean up the streets and make this country safer? Then I ask them to look at the pardons for those on January 6th, some of whom beat police officers. So this is a bunch of nonsense. This isn't about making America safer. It's about Donald Trump being Mr. Tough Guy when he's really a coward, going after minorities and owning the libs. That's what this is all about, my friend.
Yeah, I know, Brian, but like I said, are any of the media outlets addressing the fact that he's going after cities that the crime rate is actually down in, instead of going after the most violent, cities in the country? I mean, which are all probably the top 6 are red, I believe.
Yep, you are correct. I do believe that in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we were talking about this yesterday, that is run by a Democrat mayor, but Arkansas, correct me if I'm wrong, has a Republican governor. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Going back to the YouTube super chat, Tina B says, more hypocritical insanity from Trump saying he will sue Gavin Newsom for gerrymandering. Well, you're right about that, Tina. It's nothing but hypocrites on the far right these days. And I can give you about 100 different examples of that. Again, if you're a Trump supporter, now's your chance to debate me, and now's your chance to call into this show and, tell me why you think I'm wrong. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next on PTL. Hello, Joseph.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
All right. Here's my piece. Hearing Trump bringing in the National Guard at Chicago and Baltimore makes me, like you say, you're right about that. He's trying to bring fascism to other parts of the states that are run by Democrats. And it's going to make every people who were born Democrats and American citizens to deal with the fascism. I mean, can you imagine what happens? Like I say, can you imagine what is going to happen if he brings the National Guard to California?
Oh gosh,
I mean, it's going to be a fascist. It's going to be a fascist military police state, and I find it terrible and disturbing.
That is going to be beyond disturbing, and I can't even imagine what that will look like. I mean, if we thought the the Rodney King riots were bad, oh boy, that will incite violence, and we don't want that to happen. Listen, I want all of our communities, just like you, to be safe. Right. I want local law enforcement to do their job and give them the necessities that they need. But deploying the National Guard is absurd. Thank you for the call, Joe. I appreciate you. Let's go to Lance. Lance is next up on PTL. Hey, Lance, what's going on?
Hey, I'm so excited. I've never called in before.
Well, I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you. Sorry about my voice, too. I'm kind of hoarse from yelling at Nazis.
But, you're good.
Okay. I just had 2 quick questions. Did you see recently where Hillary Clinton was saying, she would support Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize if he, stopped the Ukraine war or whatever?
I did hear her say that. Obviously, that's not going to happen. If the war does end, it's not going to be because of anything that Donald Trump has done. So I think she just threw that out there, which I don't necessarily agree with. But
that's what I'm sorry. That's what I'm curious about. I don't think it had anything. I was wondering if there was like a deeper meaning to that. Like,
no,
why would she,
I think it's basically
say anything nice about Trump.
I don't think she was saying anything nice. I think basically she's a very smart lady, and I think she's basically saying it ain't going to happen. Go ahead and give him the Nobel Peace Prize if he thinks he can end this war, but it ain't going to happen. And by the way, she's right. I mean, Putin won't even meet with Zelensky. He's embarrassed Donald Trump every single day. Every single time Donald Trump says Putin wants peace, there's another airstrike where innocent people lose their lives. Listen, maybe Hillary didn't.
That's so awful. That's so awful over there. And it's like, there's nothing you can do about it when you're here.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I would compare it to? I'm going to give you a sports analogy. Say you're on the golf course and, you say to the person you're playing with, hey, I'll give you $1 million if you get a hole in one here. You know, it's like 1 in a billion chance, especially if you're not a good golfer. And you say, okay, I'll give you this if you if you get a hole in one. So that's the way I see it when it comes to Hillary Clinton and her comment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was just curious if, like, more leaning towards that comment she made, if, like, maybe her and Clinton and Trump are all in it together on the Epstein files, and they got to, even though Trump said all that stuff about her when they were running against each other.
Well, listen,
think
here's what I do know.
Theater.
Here's what I do know, my friend, and I appreciate the call. I don't know who's in those files, but I do want them to be released. I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Doesn't matter to me. Because if you're a criminal, you're a criminal, and you deserve to be prosecuted because victims deserve justice. I've always felt that way. I will always feel that way. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. If you want to be a part of the conversation, let's go to Mark. Mark is next on PTL. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Brian. Good afternoon again.
Hi.
Trump has not changed. It's always the question of, is Trump being just a racist? Is he doing this just because he's racist? This is Trump ever since the 70s, or whenever his father brainwashed him as a Klan member. He instilled this into Trump. So Trump never changed. He's just more outspoken about what he's doing. Also, you mentioned about Joe Walsh, where he's going to be running for president.
Yeah.
I could pick, like you always say, I would vote for a ham sandwich before any Republican.
Sure.
And by the way, it's not a Republican Party anymore. For you people, it's MAGA. That's how I classify them now. I don't even call them Republican. I call them MAGA.
Well, I agree.
Because they're not a Republican Party.
Obviously, Mark, I completely 100% agree with you. It's not the Republican Party. It's the MAGA Party. All right. Speaking of MAGA, let's go to a MAGA supporter. We always appreciate when they call in. Let's go to Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Indy.
I'm sorry. Where are you calling from?
Indy.
Okay.
Indiana.
Gotcha. All right, Stephen. So where do you think I'm wrong here? You say you're a Donald Trump supporter. Where am I wrong?
I'm calling from Indy.
If you could just do me a favor and lower your radio too, that'd be awesome. Just so we don't have an echo.
Well, the thing is, man, this call's for Mark, and that call yesterday was absolutely disgraceful, sir.
Okay.
And that's what's the problem with Democratic base.
Okay, so I don't know what call you're talking about, but let's try to focus on you and me right now. You said you're a Trump supporter, so let's try to have a conversation. What do you like about what Donald Trump has done over the course of the last 6 or 7 months, Stephen?
I like that he got rid of the EV mandate.
He got rid of what? I'm sorry?
The EV mandate.
Okay, you don't have. Why are you yelling? Can we have a conversation without you yelling?
Sir, can you hear me? Do I need to speak louder?
No, I heard what you said, but why are you yelling? Can we have a civil conversation?
You said, excuse me, what'd you say? So I spoke a little louder.
Okay, well, thank you. You don't have to scream. Let me ask you a question, Stephen. Do you have any kids?
No.
You don't. So let's just say if you had a daughter, Stephen, would you want to vote for somebody who admittedly went into teenage girls' locker rooms to look at teenagers in a sexual manner? Do you think that's appropriate? And do you think that's someone who should be the president of the United States, or a 34-count felon?
Wasn't in a sexual manner.
He said that on the Howard Stern show. Did you not listen to the interview, sir? Because I did, and we played it on the show.
It wasn't sexually.
Yeah.
How was it sexual, sir?
Yep. He joked about it, and he talked about it, and he bragged about the fact that
it's sexual.
Okay, I'm sure.
I could look at grown men and make a joke.
Okay. So there are women in that were teenagers in that locker room that have spoken out on it and said they were extremely uncomfortable, and that they did not give him permission to do that when they were undressing. Do you think that's a joke?
You know what, sir? You say the same thing over and over.
No. Answer the question. Answer the question. Don't dodge it.
You've already asked it.
You don't want to answer the question. I see. It's interesting. Okay, let's go with some other stuff then, Stephen. Are you comfortable with 15 million people losing their Medicaid coverage in the big and beautiful bill?
That's another one, dude.
Why is it you don't want to answer any of my questions? And your only defense is that's another one. It's a very basic question. He just passed the big and beautiful bill. Answer the question. Otherwise, you are a coward.
Don't know how to work. You work 2 hours a day.
Okay, so now you're going to go to ad hominem attacks and personal insults because you can't answer my question. First of all, you're the guy who listens to this show, and you're the guy who used your little Trump fingers, even though you're not capable of answering a question. You're the person who called into this show. I don't work 2 hours a day. You have no idea how a radio show works and how much work goes into it. So, Stephen, we'll try this one more time. And I haven't called you any names yet, but you've called me names and you haven't answered any of my questions. I've asked you a couple, and your only defense is, oh, is that your go-to? So I've asked you 2 questions. You've dodged them. I'll ask you another one. Do you think those who beat police officers on January 6th are hostages and patriots?
Again.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day. You're a waste of my time. You won't answer any of my questions because you are a very, as Trump would say, low IQ person. If you're going to call in and say you're a Trump supporter, then answer my questions. If you're not going to answer my questions, then don't call into the show. All you did in that entire conversation was ad hominem attacks. You started screaming at me for no reason, and you couldn't defend any of Donald Trump's behaviors and actions as president. And your only go-to was, again, you always go to that. Why don't you answer the question? I'll respond by saying, again, you Trump supporters, when I pin you in a corner and I ask you to defend the indefensible and you can't do it, so then you start attacking me. Thank you, Stephen, for proving my point that many of you are very ill-informed and uneducated. Immortal. Let's go to Immortal with the YouTube super chat who says, why do all Trump supporters sound like Stephen? Worth a second donation. Thank you, Immortal. And Stephen, thank you for calling in because you helped make me some money with some donations. So that's awesome. Again, you did it again. You keep bringing up those talking points again. Why do you keep saying that again? Yeah, because all those MAGA supporters didn't say Joe Biden's in the bunker, that he's got Alzheimer's. Oh, no, they never went to their go-tos, right? But the difference is when somebody on the right goes to some sort of go-to, I explain and answer and tell them why I disagree with them. Obviously, Stephen's not smart enough to do that. He's very special. All right, who do we got next here? 702-221-7283. Let's go to Leonard on line 6. Leonard is next up on PTL. Hi, Leonard.
How you doing, Brian?
Hey,
boy,
good.
What a day.
Yeah.
I can't wait to come on the show tomorrow. These people, wow, that was a typical standard MAGA. But can I take a moment to explain something about Hillary Clinton's statements?
Sure.
So it wasn't just saying that I would nominate Trump for the award. What she actually said was, if he were to stop the fighting and give back all the territory that Russia took back to Ukraine,
there's context.
Then because the thing is, he's never going to give that land back.
Leonard, I'm going to be Stephen for a few moments, okay? We'll do a little.
All right.
Again, you go to those talking points. Again, that's not true. That's not what Hillary Clinton said. Again, yeah, you liberals, you go to your talking points. Leonard, you go to your talking points.
Can you name one thing that a new talking point that any MAGA or anyone who watched Fox News has come up with in, let's say, since 2020? Can you name one new talking point?
Again, he's making America great again, and you just are angry about it because you're a liberal. Again, you go to your talking points. Again.
Well, some current talking points are the military taking over blue states and trying to institute martial law eventually. That's a new point. Would you agree with that?
No, he wants to. No, he wants to make America safer. He's making America safer. Why do you care? Why would that bother you? You should be praising the president of the United States, my dear leader, because he wants to make America safer again. Why do you liberals have a problem with people cleaning up the streets?
Well, what about Governor Moore? You think he lied when he said Governor Moore
again
and said, "Sir, you're doing a great job."
Again,
sir,
with your talking points,
amazing.
Again, you go to Westmore and your talking points. Again, okay, I can't do it anymore. I can't. Do, again, again.
You forgot to say. I tell you what.
I'll tell you what again. I'll tell you what. I love my Kid Rock, okay? I love my Kid Rock, and I love my Lauren Boebert and my Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, again.
Tim Rock is pissed at Gavin Newsom. Oh my God, is he mad?
I listen to my Ted Nugent every night before I go to sleep again. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore. Leonard, I can't wait to see you tomorrow, my friend. Thanks for calling in, okay?
All right, brother. Have a good day.
All right. Again. 702-221-7283. Let's see. Let's go to Terry. Terry's next on PTL. What's up, Terry?
Hey, Brian, I'm sorry. I'm still laughing about that.
Again. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to let you, just a couple of things. I'd be willing to up my cholesterol medication and eat at Cracker Barrel to support them if that's possible. I'm a proud Marylander, by the way, and I got a message for Trump. Don't mess with Wes.
Yeah.
And I also totally agree with Joe Walsh. We actually have a fascist occupying the White House. And as far as the deployment of the National Guard, he tried to do that, I think, in 2020 in Lafayette Square, and Esper and Milley told him not to do it. But there are no guardrails now. So there we are.
You are right. There are no guardrails, Terry, and I appreciate you calling out there from Maryland. Yes, I would say that your governor is a really good man, and I believe one day he could be president of the United States. I think he has all the tools to do so. Let's go to Kava. Kava's next on PTL. Hello, Kava.
Hello, Brian. How are you today?
Hey, good. What's on your mind?
So I want to address something you were just talking about with Donald Trump threatening to send the military into Chicago. Now, I'm not from the U.S., as you know, and a lot of my people from Chicago who I've talked to, they have said that they never asked for that. That even the governor, he even said that he didn't want Donald Trump there, nor do you want the military there. And Donald Trump still thinks that he's going to be able to get away with that. And my thing is, he can try if he wants, but the people of Chicago are not going to let him. He knows good well that they're going to fight back. So either Donald Trump stops now, or unfortunately, I think that there's going to be a civil war if he doesn't stop. And as much as I don't, like you said, as much as none of us want that,
Kava, here's what I would say to that, Kava. Again, you guys keep talking about the Civil War. Again, that's a liberal talking point. Again, okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. I can't help it. Steven got me going. Is there any way my producer maybe tomorrow can take that again call and maybe clip that? Maybe we can play it every single time somebody calls in. Thank you, Steven, for the material. And thank you, Kava, for the phone call. Siobhan is next up on PTL. 702-221-7283. What's up, Siobhan?
Hi, Brian. Look, why is Steven so hot?
Hot in a good way or a bad way? Is that your type?
No.
Okay.
All the niggas are always calling it hot.
Well, I would say physically that's probably not the case, but yeah, they always are very angry people, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're very angry people. Steven sounded like a very angry guy.
He sounded like a fool.
Well, because he is. Yeah, I mean, many of them are.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean,
they.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? Donald Trump always says he loves the uneducated. He loves stupid people. And that is his base for sure.
Oh, that's his base 150%. He wasn't, Donald Trump does tell the truth sometimes. And I think he was telling the truth there.
Yeah.
Once in a while, he does say something true.
A lot. And he projects.
Well, he does a lot more than that. But, somebody in the chat says he admitted that he has a mushroom. I'm not going to go there. But he does tell the truth once in a while. It's very rare, but once in a while, he does tell the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I wanted. I just wanted to say something about Steven.
Yeah, well, thank you for the call, my dear. I don't disagree with you, and I appreciate that. Steven, you're getting a lot. This is probably more attention you've gotten from women than you've had your entire life, so congratulations on that. Shelley says people from Connecticut cannot do hick accents. Marge is better, perhaps. I never said I was very good at doing accents. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. If you are a Trump supporter, now is your chance to call into the show and have a debate with me. But don't do what Steven did and not answer one of my questions, because it's not going to go very well for you. 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Goldball. That's a very interesting name. Hello, Goldball.
Hi. Let's go back to January.
Okay.
In January, Trump was the nominee. He also had pledge from Jay Powell that if everything stayed on track, interest rates were going down.
Yes.
So what does he do? What does Trump do? He started buying up millions upon millions of bonds, federal bonds, state bonds, municipal bonds. He now owns millions of bonds. If interest rates drop, cha-ching,
Yeah.
big payoff. If they go up, there's not a whole lot of change.
Right.
It doesn't affect things. But if interest rates drop, he makes tons of money again off the American people.
Oh, sure. We know that's true. You know what's funny, though? There are some Trump supporters out there that will brag about Donald Trump not wanting to make money, and he doesn't take a salary, when we know Donald Trump has literally made billions of dollars.
Right. He's got a tap.
It's
he's
insanity.
got a faucet that just runs into his pocket.
The idea that anybody thinks Donald Trump cares about you, he doesn't even care about his own family. The fact that anybody thinks that Donald Trump cares about this country or he cares about you, it means that you're very, very naive and perhaps ill-informed and complicit. I mean, I'm trying to be nice about it. You know what I mean?
Right. And here's my point on his racism. I think he would, even if they were white men and Democrats or white women, he would still go after them. But the fact that they're black, that just adds a bigger grin to his face.
You are absolutely, I agree with you. And if you look at Donald Trump, and thank you for the call, my dear. If you look at Donald Trump's history and his past and the way he's treated minorities, other than people that maybe look like him with a lot of orange makeup, he treats them very, very differently. Do you remember the Central Park Five? 5 minorities that were in jail for a crime that they were convicted of, and then they were let free because of DNA that proved that they were all innocent. Donald Trump took a page out of the New York Times and said they deserved capital punishment. And then when they were found innocent, he still doubled down on it. Now, is it a coincidence that these were 5 minorities? No, just like I don't think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump is deploying the National Guard into cities that are run by black mayors. This is not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump has a history, and it's a history of being a bigot. That's who Donald Trump is. And if you don't believe me, just go to Mar-a-Lago, because those are the people that Donald Trump hangs out with, a bunch of white people that happen to be wealthy. That's the type of people that Donald Trump hangs around with. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right, let's see who we going to next here. Let's go to David, or who we going to? Pat? You want to go to Pat first? All right, let's go to Pat. Hi, Pat. What's going on?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Totally off topic, but I wanted to just mention it. A few months ago, I think it was maybe May. Do you remember Shiloh Hendricks, the lady in Rochester, Minnesota?
Yes, I do. Who called the young child the N-word. I remember that. Yep.
Yes. She was going to be charged today with, unfortunately, I can't remember if 3 or 4 counts of disorderly conduct only.
Yeah.
$1,000 fine or 90 days in jail. What the hell is she going to do with all that money she raised?
So she raised, correct me, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
I think about $1 million.
Yeah, so that is criminal, if you ask me. That is what is so sick about this country. You have a woman, a despicable human being, who called a young child the N-word. Now, I don't think that's against the law, even though it's despicable and disgusting. I'm not a lawyer. But the fact that there is anybody in society, anybody, that would donate money to her based on that behavior, we should not be surprised that somebody like Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States. If people are willing, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are willing to donate to a woman because she called a young child the N-word, then why should we be surprised that millions of people voted for Donald Trump?
Exactly. And I'm not surprised. I just think it's despicable.
Yeah. Listen, I talked about this on the Piers Morgan show. And I said, if you are donating to this woman, then you might as well be wearing a white hood. And then the pushback I got was there was a African-American, a teen black kid who stabbed a white kid. If you remember that story. And then I was asked, what about all the people that are donating to him for his legal defense? I said, well, If he's found guilty and then people are still donating to him, then I would have a problem with that. But they're donating to him because they believe he's innocent. And if he's found innocent in the court of law, then I have no problem. In fact, I would praise the people who gave him the legal funds to be able to defend him. We don't know whether he's guilty or not. So the two, they're not equate. We saw what Shiloh did on camera. We saw it. We heard it. There's no ifs or ends about it. Anybody who donated to her is despicable. And I guarantee you, 100% of the people that donated money to her are also the people who voted for Donald Trump. I guarantee you that 100%.
Agree. So,
yep.
Sorry to go off topic.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Well, listen,
it just came out today.
I appreciate that. It's not necessarily off topic because we are talking about race, and I asked that question is certainly about race. And I asked you all the question: do you think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump has fired a African-American woman by the name of Lisa Cook? Do you think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump is only going after cities run by Democrat black mayors and sending the National Guard out there, or at least attempting to? Is that a coincidence? Terrence on the YouTube super chat says, "Hey, Brian, I'm hearing the championship Texas Longhorn softball team turned down a White House visit." Well, I don't know if that's true. If it is, it wouldn't surprise me. That's for sure. Nobody turned down a visit to go meet Joe Biden. But look at all the teams and the organizations that have refused to go to see Donald Trump in the White House. I certainly wouldn't. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. If you want to debate me and you're MAGA, you're welcome to do so. Again, that number is 702-221-SAVE. Let's go to David. David is next up on PTL. Hey, David, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. According to CNN, since Trump has deployed the National Guard in D.C., robberies and car break-ins were down by over 40%, and other crimes were down significantly, like upwards of 20%. Is that not significant?
You're saying so you're defending calling in the National Guard because you're saying carjackings are way down. Is that your defense for calling in the National Guard?
Among other things, theft, auto thefts, and other types of thefts and robberies are all down by a significant amount in just about a week.
So does that mean not significant? So does that mean we should call in the National Guard to every city in this country?
Well, no, I'm not saying every single city, but at a certain point, you have to recognize that a lot of these cities are having real serious problems. And yes, the majority of them are ran by Democrats, and they're
not
really
true.
bad.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. The majority of them are not run by Democrats. That is factually inaccurate, and I don't know where. No, I mean you're saying something that's not true.
The cities themselves are, yes.
Okay. Oh, the cities themselves are. Okay, they're all run by Democrats. All right, so it's a Democrat problem.
Well, do you disagree with that?
No, I just think it's ridiculous what you're saying. And here's the difference between you
and me. Am I wrong?
I don't care whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. Okay, if Donald Trump really cared about the most crime. Well, no. This is what you don't care about. The most crime in the most dangerous cities where Donald Trump has not deployed the National Guard or not even threatened to call it the National Guard. Why is he only deploying them to cities run by? You keep saying yet. Why wouldn't he do? Why wouldn't that be the first thing that he would do? If this really was about crime, then why wouldn't he deploy the National Guard to the most dangerous cities in the country? Now, I know the answer to that. Why don't you answer the question? And don't say, David, with respect, don't say, well, maybe they will do it. Why do you think he has not called out the National Guard to the most dangerous cities in the country if he claims this is about crime?
Well, I'll explain. Because Washington, D.C. is, the capital of our country, and it's completely absurd with how dangerous our own capital is.
Why? You're not answering. I didn't ask you how.
I just did.
You said Washington, D.C. is absurd. Okay, that's not answering my question. I'm going to ask it again. Washington, D.C. is not even top 10 when it comes to the most crime, particularly violent crime. I'm asking you a very specific question. And by the way, he's threatened to deploy troops to Chicago. Also not top 10.
Fantastic.
He's threatened. You say fantastic, but you won't answer my question. I'm going to ask it again. Why has he not threatened to deploy the troops to any of the top 10 most dangerous cities in this country? Please answer the question.
Well, I told you, because he's doing it in D.C. first, because that's the capital of this country, and he wants to get
that's the capital. Because that's the capital of the country. That's your excuse why he did it in D.C. first. So why is he doing it in Chicago second? So why is he doing it in Chicago? What's your excuse to why he's deploying troops in Chicago if they're not top 10 when it comes to violent crime? What's your excuse on Chicago?
Well, have you seen the murder rate in Chicago? Do you have any idea how
They
bad
are
it is
not.
there? I have
I just
family in
said.
Chicago,
I
and they
just
tell me how
okay,
dangerous it is.
just because your family tells you how dangerous it is doesn't mean it's top 10 most dangerous cities in the country, which it's
I didn't
not.
say it was
Okay,
top 10.
so
I didn't say it was top 10.
answer my question. Why is he threatening to deploy troops to Chicago and Baltimore when they are not top 10 most dangerous cities in the country? I keep asking the same question over again. You say, well, because DC is the capital. Pathetic excuse. So give me an excuse to why you think.
How's that a pathetic excuse?
Because
Do you
of
disagree with that? Is it
because
not
we're
the
talking
capital?
talking about crime. And if we're talking about
and I
crime,
just told you that area is very high in crime,
That-
and it's the
is it one
capital
of
of our country,
Okay,
and he wants to handle it in
so-
our capital. Don't
gotcha.
you want to see
then
the
why did he
capital of the
call?
US be
Then why
healthy
did
and
he?
safe? Do you
Then
not
why
want
did
to see that?
I want to see every city safe, sir, not just DC. But if that's the case, and you're making, and that's what I think it is, an excuse, then what is your excuse for him wanting to deploy troops to Chicago and Baltimore when they are not even close to top 10 per capita when it comes to murder rates and violent crime? What is your excuse for that?
It's how is it not? How is it an excuse? I just told you these areas. So it has to be the first one, and then the second one, and then the fourth, and the seventh.
So you
It's
think
the
it's
areas that
fair?
he's
You're,
looking at that are really dangerous.
No.
Yeah,
They're not.
excuse
They're
me.
not even close to top 10 most dangerous. If this is about crime, and you think he cares about that, by the way, he pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists in D.C. Last I checked, that was the Capitol, and he called them patriots and hostages. So please spare me the BS about how he cares about the Capitol in D.C. and about being safe, when on January 6th, he didn't call in the National Guard, and he sat on his ass for 5 hours.
Well, he tried to.
No, he didn't. There is zero. No, wrong. Nope. There is zero evidence. Once again, you are lying. There is zero evidence.
I'm not lying.
Oh, then where is your evidence that he actually tried to call in the National Guard? Because the commission, the January 6th commission, interviewed basically everybody under oath, and not one person under oath says Donald Trump asked to call in the National Guard. So where are you getting that information from? And
this is your argument every time.
Tell
every
me.
Time
Tell me. No.
somebody talks-
Let's
I'm
go.
explaining. Every time somebody talks about how dangerous these cities are, you talk
Let's
about
go back
January 6th.
because January
It's
6th.
completely ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous. You think what happened on January 6th is ridiculous? You keep claiming that the reason why Donald Trump called in the National Guard is because it's our capital. So if that's your opinion, and we need to protect D.C. because it's our capital.
Why do you think he brought him into D.C.?
Hold on. If that's your opinion, then please answer my question. And by the way, correcting the record for you again, there is no evidence that Donald Trump wanted to call in the National Guard. There were multiple people that testified under oath that he never asked for that, and he had the authority to do it. He sat in his ass for 5 hours. What you're saying is not true. I want to be very clear on that. You have zero evidence to back up what you just said. Now, you asked me a question, David. Why do you think he's doing it in Washington, D.C.? I think there are multiple reasons.
Okay.
I think the first reason is his ego. He wants to play tough guy and appeal to his base. Number two, I do think that the fact that there is a black mayor and Democrats in charge there, and the fact that there is a black mayor in charge, just like there's a black mayor in charge of Chicago, just like there's a black mayor in charge of Baltimore, is not a coincidence. I also do think race is involved. A lot of homeless people, a lot of minorities. I think there are multiple reasons why he is doing this, and I think it's a very slippery slope and a dangerous path. So don't give me the excuse that the reason why
you just think it's about race, like even though there's no real.
I just said
is.
Okay, so let's go with that then. What does Baltimore,
Let's go with
Chicago, and DC all have in common? Those
They
are
have
the three.
very high murder rates.
Not top 10. What do you consider?
I didn't
high?
say they were top 10.
Okay,
But
so they're not. So none of those three cities are top 10 or even close to that. By the way, I think Chicago's like 98th of the most dangerous cities in the country. So I'm asking you again, what do they all have in common? Please answer the question.
I just told you they all have
They're all
very
dangerous.
high murder rates.
They're all dangerous.
Are
Okay.
you going to tell me Chicago's not
let me,
dangerous? Are you going to say that to me?
Again, they're 98th in the country. So my answer would be, David.
Can you answer this one question?
I'm going to. Okay, but hold on. Let me answer.
Do you think Chicago's a safe city?
Do I think Chicago's a safe city? So if you ask a question like that, and someone says, no, it's not necessarily a safe city. So cities, I don't think North Vegas is safe. I don't think there are plenty of parts of Las Vegas that are safe. Does that mean I think the National Guard should be called in? No. So your question is ridiculous. Okay.
So you don't think it's safe, or you do? I just want to know.
I
Yes or no, Chicago is a safe city.
I think there are portions of large cities across the country that are not safe. You could name any city, and I can give you. There are bad neighborhoods in every city that are not safe. That doesn't mean the National Guard should be called in.
But they were never this bad. They were never this bad. Chicago was not this bad 20 years ago. It's really, really bad. It's not as bad as it was 5 years ago. But
What about
it's still
Baltimore?
comically high.
What
as
about
is
Baltimore?
Yeah, these
Really? It's high?
all of these. Yes.
Really?
It's high. Do you not agree?
No, I don't agree. Baltimore murder rate is down 62%. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, relative to what? Relative to its very high murder rate. Just because it's down doesn't mean that it's low. It just means it's down, but it's
Baltimore
still a high
is not
number.
Baltimore is not one of the top 20 cities most dangerous. And again, the murder rate is down 62%. You're making excuses.
But
for
that
Donald
doesn't
Trump.
mean that it's safe. just
Okay,
because
so
it's down.
in
You
your
understand
opinion,
that.
if David doesn't think a city is quote unquote safe, then that is his defense for calling in the National Guard. David, do you realize how ridiculous you sound?
At some point, you have to handle these problems, which these cities have not handled. They won't do it.
And
Either
handling-
they don't have the political inclination to do it, or they don't want to, or they
and
don't
your
have the money
idea
or funding.
and your idea of handling the problem is pick and choose 3 cities that aren't even top 50 in the most dangerous cities in the country that all happen to have Democrat black mayors. And your defense is, I don't think it's safe there. David,
Okay,
you're
so that's
ridiculous.
your argument is it's
You're-
because the mayors
you're-
are black. That's
well,
your argument.
Then what's your argument to why he picked these 3 cities over any of the top 25 most dangerous cities in the country? What is your excuse?
Because these cities are enormous and they've become known
Because
for
these
how bad and
cities-
how dangerous they are.
Because these cities are enormous. I repeat once again, they are not
Is
even
Chicago is it not a big city with a very high murder rate? Is that not true?
Again, I will repeat myself. There are plenty of other cities per capita that are far more dangerous than the cities that we are talking about, including Jackson, Mississippi,
let's go with your
Memphis,
argument for a
Tennessee,
second.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
There are plenty of cities out there that have high murder rates per capita, and Chicago and DC and Baltimore aren't even top 10. And he hasn't called out.
If he sent the National Guard to the #1 city with the highest homicide rate, would you agree with that or no?
If he, while I wouldn't agree with it, I wouldn't be against it as much. Now, I don't think we should be calling in the National Guard unless local law enforcement requested or asked for it. Local law enforcement in DC, in Baltimore, and Chicago have not asked for it. Example, there were some Black Lives Matter protests where the National Guard was called in. It's because local law enforcement said it was out of control and they needed help. It was something called an emergency. There's no emergency in Chicago. There's no emergency in DC, and there's no emergency in Baltimore. But just because David thinks it's not safe there, you're defending calling in the National Guard, which is, again, ridiculous, David. It's
So
ridiculous.
can I say real quick? Am I still there?
Go ahead.
Baltimore is the third city with the highest homicide rate. It's Baltimore, and Washington D.C. is 4th. I mean,
That's not the
is that
statistic-
not significant?
Not the statistics that I saw. In fact, you could also go through. New Orleans, Louisiana, by the way, is number 5. Baltimore and St. Louis is ahead of Baltimore. Memphis is ahead of Baltimore. Jackson, Mississippi is ahead of Baltimore. Those are the 2020. That's the 2024 data.
So are you talking about crime or homicide?
I'm talking about both.
Well, both skews the numbers because one city might be high in murder, but not higher in other crimes. It does matter.
So none
It
of
is a
them.
significant
So
difference.
even if you were correct, #1, #2, and #3, Donald Trump has not threatened to call in the National Guard. So my opinion still stands.
Well, then still, if Baltimore's the third one, is it not okay simply because he didn't go to the first 2? I mean, at some point you have to start going to certain areas to say we need to take care of this problem because it's really, really bad. I noticed how you kind of danced around saying whether or not Baltimore was actually safe, because I think even you want to admit that it's a really look. I work in Baltimore several times a month. I know how bad it is in areas that I can't go to because it's so dangerous. And I have family in Chicago. These places are really bad. I'm not saying Trump is going to solve it. He honestly probably isn't, but at least he's trying to do something because it's really bad. And it didn't used to be this way.
It didn't used to be. It didn't used to be this
No,
way.
Chicago was not this dangerous several decades ago, or even back in 2005, it wasn't this dangerous. It just simply was not.
So calling
And
in
you
the
can come up with a different solution as to say, maybe we could fix it this way. I'm open to hearing that. But you can't make the claim that Chicago, Baltimore, Memphis, they're all safe cities. They're
Okay,
not.
again, your definition of what is safe. I've traveled all over the country. There's plenty of bad
As
neighborhoods.
have I, and I know how bad these places
Okay,
are.
I'm sure you do.
Well, I do. I work in transportation. I know
Okay.
how dangerous.
I
You
know.
can write it
You
off.
work-
If you don't have the counter, Brian,
you
but
work-
you're not correct.
Well, okay, you're not correct on this. You seem to think that
How do you
because you've-
figure?
I'm trying to explain it to you, sir.
Sure.
So you've made the case that because you've traveled to cities and in your opinion, quote, they're not safe, it is a defense for calling in the National Guard, which are, by the way, not even trained to deal with these sorts of crimes. You are making a defense and an excuse for Donald Trump because you claim, since it's the Capitol, in D.C., that's why he went to.
If you don't know.
You made the case that since it's the Capitol.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. I'm
not done. You made the case that the defense, or the excuse, as I would characterize it, as to why he chose DC first is because it's the Capitol. But yet for 5 hours, when we actually had something where the National Guard should have been called in, called January 6th, he did not call in the National Guard. You claimed he did. There's no evidence that he did. People testified under oath that he didn't, so that's a lie. He sat on his ass for 5 hours and blamed Nancy Pelosi. So if there's an insurrection, he's not going to call in the National Guard when they actually should be called in. But yet, if there's a bunch of homeless
I just have one more point. You said that the National Guard isn't trained for this.
No.
Okay, I'll agree with that. And let's say they're not. Well, even if they're not, my point still stands with how crime has dropped drastically in DC with all these guards that haven't been trained. So it goes back to my original question: is that not a significant number? Which, respectfully, you didn't even answer when I asked you at the beginning of the call.
And here's why I say it's completely irrelevant, because you can't call in the National Guard to every dangerous city in this country. Number one, we don't have the resources to do so.
I agree with you on that. You can't do it with every city.
And again, most of the people that have been arrested have been arrested for nonviolent crimes, misdemeanors. By the way, you could look this up if you don't believe me. There have been a few, of course, that have serious crimes, but many of those people who have been arrested were out the same day, and they're back on the streets. So no, sir, with all due respect, David, I don't think what you're saying is correct. You could think that I'm wrong until the cows come home, but you don't have a logical reason why he hasn't sent out the National Guard to the most dangerous cities in this country. Your excuse to why he called in the National Guard to D.C., because it's the Capitol. Last I checked, the January 6th insurrection happened at the Capitol. He called the people who beat police officers heroes and patriots, and he pardoned them. So don't you tell me Donald Trump cares about the Capitol and he cares about our safety. That is a lie, and you are making excuses for what is obvious and what is right in front of us. These are 3 black mayors run by Democrats. He wants to own the libs, and I will be shocked if he calls in the National Guard to any city that's run by a Republican. There is your reason why he's doing this, David, so you can make all the excuses you want. Let's go to Paul, who's calling in from the UK. Hey, Paul, what's going on?
Hi there, Brian. Just a very quick call today. I think you're a poker player, and on the European circuit, when I used to play there, we have a saying which says, if it quacks like a duck and swims like a duck, it's a duck. And I sometimes think maybe it's an American phenomenon. You make these things too complicated. So just rattling them off the top of my head. He hides his tax records because he's a failed businessman and a cheat. He hides his medical records because he's a sick bugger. He hides his school records because he's sick. He hides the Epstein tapes because he's a paedophile. And he's obviously a racist, and he sends in the National Guard because he wants to flex his muscles in order to intimidate the American people into not having free and fair elections, just like Putin would. Right. It's fair, and it's just so obvious, Brian, and it comes true every time. He's not hiding it. He's hiding the evidence, that's all, but it's just plain and in sight. Plain and in sight. There's no debate needed. Why is he hiding the Epstein records? What could it be? We know what it is.
Of course.
We know what it is. He's a paedophile.
Of course.
And he did stuff with Epstein. That's
of course. We know that. And the way they're handling Maxwell is so despicable and so disgusting. They pretty much put her in a Club Med. And any prisoner who speaks negatively about Maxwell is punished. I mean, it's so despicable. And, MAGA Republicans have been talking about sex trafficking for years. And guess what? I'm on their side on this. I think it's absolutely despicable. But the way they are treating Maxwell, do you notice all these people are keeping quiet about it?
Did you hear that she actually defended Epstein, saying the only reason he liked young girls is to share their playlist?
I did. It's so despicable.
Can you believe it?
I know.
That's meant to be credible evidence.
I agree, my friend. I always love hearing from you, man. Thanks for calling from the UK. People are saying you should co-host the show with Paul. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Chris. Chris is next up on PTL. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
A little down. I lost my first debate to a Trump supporter, and I want to make sure people learn from my mistakes. So give me 15 seconds to explain, all right?
Okay.
I accused Trump of having an affair with Laura Loomer a few days ago. This guy laughed at me saying President Trump can do better than her and dismissed me as an idiot. And I immediately conceded the loss and said, "You're right. She looks nothing like his daughter Ivanka when she was a teenager. So why would he be interested in Laura Loomer?" And I don't lie. I was embarrassed. I lost that debate.
I think Laura Loomer is a mix between Mickey Rourke and Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's what I think. Listen, Laura Loomer is not a journalist. Laura Loomer is despicable. And she's made a big name for herself by spreading propaganda and lies about a lot of people. And unfortunately, there's a lot of right wingers on social media that make a living doing that. And it's despicable. It's disgusting. She has no credentials except coddling to Donald Trump every day. That's really what she's really best at.
Yep. Hey, speaking of Memphis, doesn't he have like some AI business going on there that's polluting everything over there?
He does. And that was another inside job and more corruption within our government. And Elon Musk made a lot of money. And you're absolutely right on that, my friend. You're absolutely right on that. Go to Lori in the YouTube super chat. Lori says, MAGA are hypocrites when it comes to crime. How about the white collar crimes that he pardoned, like tax, etc.? People who have money go free. Well, you're right. In this country, if you have money, you have a chance for better legal representation. And when you have better legal representation, you have a much better chance of getting out or getting off. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on PTL. Hello, Gary.
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind?
Okay, just wanted to mention a few quick things here. The guy that was calling about all the murders and everything.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to realize. I just did a real quick Google, because I already knew, but I just wanted to double check. And most of the time, all those homicides he's talking about, I just brought up here 56% of female homicides and 56% of male homicides were committed by people they knew. I mean, the cops can't what are they going to do? They can't go inside somebody's house.
That's very true. Most homicides are people that one knows, and it's very difficult to stop that. And when you're living in large cities and you have more people in these cities, there's obviously going to be more homicides. So that is.
I live right here, just outside of Detroit, and we get that. It's people shooting at block parties with. They're getting an argument with their aunts or uncles, barbecues. I mean, but you can't stop that kind of. I mean, what are you going to do? You just cannot do it.
It's very, very, very difficult. I do hear what you are saying, and certainly you bring in the National Guard. That's not going to change a lot.
No, that's that is so idiot. Now Trump wants to have a trained National Guardsman to do what he calls specialty work. God knows what that means.
So listen, in every city, there's going to be bad areas and crime. In my city, in North Las Vegas, there are a lot of unsafe areas. Does that mean I think the National Guard should be called in? Of course not.
Well, I got one more thing, and I'll let you, because I want other callers to get their chance.
Yep.
Is you don't even have to comment on it if you don't want to. But I was looking at some of the Trump pictures with his daughter, Ivanka.
Yep.
In her younger years, 13 to like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Very provocative. And Brian, I hate to say it, but it would not surprise me if he loaned her out to Epstein.
Well, I don't know if that happened, but I will certainly tell you this. Donald Trump is the one who talked about her body. Donald Trump is the one who said if she wasn't, if she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. So, I don't know. I mean, I people that I hang out with, fathers that I know, they don't talk about their daughters like that. They certainly don't. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mark. He's calling from Las Vegas. What's up, Mark?
Hey, thanks for sneaking me in so quick.
Sure.
David actually, well, he is a moron. I mean, that's a given. But here's what's happening on the right is that they're showing little video stories on Fox News and other things of any kind of black crime or anything happening in the inner city. And they think all of those places must be absolute hellholes, right?
Yeah.
But all they're getting is some stupid anecdote to confirm the fact that they're racist. That's all they're doing.
Right.
Washington, D.C. isn't even on the radar for crime. I was there in 2012 when it was supposedly higher, and it was perfectly safe in all the places that I went. If you go into, as you said earlier, any area of a town, that has a lot of poverty and other issues that aren't being addressed by sane policy, you're going to see more crime. People aren't going to sit back and starve. They'll they'll rob somebody to get money to buy food or whatever they're going to do.
Sure.
We could solve these problems, but they'd rather give money to wealthy people who sit on their ass, right? So that they can make more money and not do anything with the money that's useful to the country, rather than address real problems.
I completely agree with you. When you look at all the people in this country that are struggling and those that are living paycheck to paycheck, they're the ones that are suffering the most under Donald Trump's policies, whether it's losing their Medicaid coverage or losing their food stamps or not getting tax deductions. And when you look at the tax loopholes for the Fortune 500 CEOs and the rich billionaires in this country, those are the ones that are benefiting from Donald Trump's policies. I told everybody that this was going to happen. You could see it coming from a million miles away.
Yeah, our media is terrible because they hype up the acts of violence by the wrong people, while ignoring the fact that billions of dollars are being stolen from the right wing by these white supremacists.
You're right.
So thanks.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you. I agree with you 150%. All right, let's go to Pat. Pat is next up on PTL. Hello, Pat.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Pat.
Here in Maryland, work in D.C. We're going to always have crime in D.C. as long as we got a felon running D.C.
Well, that's true. 34.
We got a pedophile felon running D.C. So we're going to have that's top of the line crime.
That's true. Isn't it interesting that the people that talk about crime are the people that are criminals themselves? Donald J. Trump is one of them, a 34-count felon, and he wants to talk about making America safer.
And what do you think? You send the National Guard in there, of course the crime is going to go down.
Well, obviously,
of course.
Obviously.
Nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to go there.
I suppose if we sent armed tankers into cities, the cities would be safer too. That doesn't mean we send armed tankers in there.
Thank you.
It's just it's such a stupid argument, man. It's such a dumb argument.
Right. That's just stupid. Of course your crime will go down if you send the National Guard in there. Nobody wants to go around that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's so stupid. It's such a stupid argument. So what does that mean?
They don't even know how to make an argument. They are so stupid.
Should we send the National Guard into every single city that David thinks is dangerous? I mean, it's so,
Thank you. Send them to David's place.
Yeah. I would actually be okay with that, my dear. Thank you for the phone call. Let's go to Bruce. Bruce is next up on PTL. What's up, Bruce?
Hey, how are you, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind?
The big thing that people don't get, and it's hard to really reinforce it, but as you said, crime is directly linked to social economic poverty. Like when people are poor, have no money, there's a lot of crime.
That's true. I mean, I certainly agree with you. You go to cities and areas, neighborhoods and cities that are much more poor, there's going to be more crime. That's an obviosity, and I agree with you on that. And instead of addressing the issue of poverty and helping people that are struggling, Donald Trump is doing the opposite of that. He's taking away government assistance programs to help people that are struggling. You take food stamps away, people are going to shoplift.
Yeah, and the big problem is these billionaires, they've sucked so much money out of the economy, right? And it's the bank doing nothing. It's very damaging to the economy.
Oh, sure. You're right, my friend. Bruce, I'm up against the clock here. I appreciate your call. Absolutely agree with him 150%. You take away food stamps, there's going to be people out there that can't put food on the tables for their families. They're going to, because they want to provide for their families. I'm not condoning that. You take away medical benefits for over 15 million as Americans. Some of them are going to lose their lives. Many of them are going to become sick. They're going to go to the emergency room. The hospitals are going to have to take them in, and they should, but it costs the American taxpayer more money. But these stupid Republicans out there think that this big, beautiful bill, that they call it, will save money while giving the biggest tax breaks to the top 1% in this country that we've ever seen in the history of the United States of America. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So tomorrow on the program, Leonard Cardinal is going to be joining me. He's going to be my co-host. So I get people every day. By the way, we just passed 138,000 subscribers. I'm hoping we can get to 140,000 on YouTube. So if you're not a subscriber on my YouTube page, please do so. It's at PTL Radio Show. Again, my YouTube page, at PTL Radio Show. Please subscribe. Give me the thumbs up. Be interactive on there. My personal website is pushingthelimits.live, and I talk about this every day. We appreciate everybody, by the way, in the YouTube Super Chat. You guys are very generous. If you really love what we do and you want to support what we do, we are an independently owned radio show. You see the website right there on the bottom of the screen, pushingthelimits.live. We take monthly donations. Doesn't matter what it is. $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you can afford, we appreciate. We also sell PTL merchandise on there. Hats, beanies, mugs, you name it, we sell it on there. So whatever you can do to support what we do and support independent media, we would greatly appreciate that. PTL is becoming a larger family by the day, and I'm very grateful for that as well. And the overwhelming majority of our listeners here are very informed, educated, and I love all of you very much, and I wouldn't change it for the world. We got a lot of loyal listeners out there, and I love you guys for that very, very much. So tomorrow we will be on same time, same place. Leonard Cardinale will be joining me in studio as co-hosting for me, and we're going to have some fun, ladies and gentlemen, and same time, same place. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And I hope you all have a great rest of your Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South